Rangers may have secured progression in the Champions League qualifiers, but make no mistake, what happened in Plzeň was a warning, a reality check. And while the scoreboard shows the job got done, the performance on the pitch left Russell Martin with more questions than answers, especially about one particular player whose display was so shaky, so error-prone, it has reignited serious doubts over his long-term place in this squad. We're talking about a night where, despite having a comfortable advantage from the first leg, Rangers looked anything but composed. Now, let's break this down. From the very first whistle, it was clear Victoria Plzeň had no intentions of rolling over. They came out with aggression, pressing high with 4, sometimes 5 men, disrupting. Rangers' attempts to build from the back. And even though Martin's side managed to break that pressure at times, especially in the opening half, the final third told a different story. Possession was given away far too easily, attacking phases fizzled out, and what really seemed to frustrate the manager was the lack of care on the ball. Not the type of risks that come with being bold or creative, but simple lazy turnovers. Russell Martin didn't hide his feelings post-match. In fact, he was refreshingly honest. I said to the attacking lads, it's not fair on the boys at the back, he admitted. Jack Butland is taking big risks, finding you with passes under pressure, and you just give the ball away cheaply. That kind of wastefulness isn't just frustrating, it's dangerous. Especially in Europe, where one lapse can change everything. And yet Rangers did manage to claw their way back into the match. After going behind, they responded, equalized, and at that point, you'd expect a seasoned team to control proceedings, slow things down and see out the result. But according to Martin, what followed was perhaps even more frustrating than the early mistakes. The intensity dropped, the urgency vanished. It was almost like some players thought the job was done. But in Europe, especially wearing a shirt as heavy as Rangers, the job is never done until the final whistle. He called it out directly, this drop in level, this sense of complacency. That's not what this football club is about. The one saving grace, according to Martin, came late in the match when certain players, he mentioned Kieran, Nedum, and Danilo, started showing a bit more maturity. They held possession in the opposition half. They protected the ball, and that's the standard the manager wants to see more consistently across the squad. Now the thing is, it wasn't all doom and gloom. There were moments when Rangers looked genuinely dangerous. Martin pointed to the number of promising counterattacks his side had. 3 versus 2s, 4 versus 3s, even 2 versus 1s. But all of them came to nothing. The execution was off. The final ball lacked sharpness. And in matches of this caliber, those are the chances that separate the winners from the also-rans. When asked about the upcoming clash against Club Brugge, Martin didn't sugarcoat it. If Rangers continue to play with this level of carelessness, in possession, they won't just struggle. They'll get punished. It's not about taking too many risks in attack. It's about taking care when you do. As the gaffer said himself, the gap between our best and our worst is still too big. That inconsistency needs fixing and fast. But perhaps the biggest story of the night wasn't about the tactics or even the result. It was about one player whose name now dominates the headlines, and not for the right reasons. Jeff Day. The Brazilian fullback was handed a rare start in this decisive fixture. With Rangers holding a comfortable 3-0 advantage from the first leg, it seemed like the perfect chance for him to step up, show his value, and stake a claim for more minutes. Instead, what we saw was a performance so concerning, so riddled with errors, that it could very well mark the end of his time at Ibrox. Let's not sugarcoat this. Jeff Day's night in Plzeň was a disaster. The stats paint a grim picture. No. Tackles won, only 1 duel won out of 3, and just 4 interceptions completed. But it wasn't just the numbers. Watching the game, it was clear he was off the pace, at fault in the build-up to the opening goal, caught out of position more than once. And as the pressure mounted in the second half, he looked increasingly lost. One national outlet handed him a brutal 2 out of 10 in their player ratings, calling his performance atrocious and accusing him of completely losing his man in the lead up to the goal. That's the kind of critique that sticks. That creates headlines. And crucially, that forces a manager to think twice about his selections moving forward. To make matters more pressing, transfer talks are already underway. Reports suggest Rangers are in discussions with Brazilian side Palmas, who are keen to bring Jeff Day back home. The figures being discussed? Somewhere between 4.3 and 5.1 million pounds. For a player who's never truly cemented his place in the starting 11, that kind of offer is hard to ignore. But it's not that simple. If Jeff Day goes, the left back position becomes a serious issue. Redilm, the only other senior left back in the squad, is also being linked with a move away. His former club, Basika, are reportedly monitoring his situation. That leaves Rangers in a dangerous spot. Max Aarons could potentially cover on the left, but that's not his natural side. His strengths lie on the right, challenging James Tavernier. Moving him to the left would be a short-term fix, not a sustainable solution. So now Martin finds himself in a tight spot. Letting Jeff Day go might make sense on paper, especially given his inconsistencies. But unless there's a clear quality replacement lined up, and soon, it could come back to haunt them. With the Premiership season already off to a slow start and European hopes on the line, squad depth isn't just important, it's critical. One injury, one suspension, and suddenly the whole system is under strain. And if that wasn't enough, for 1 week, there's another situation brewing. Midfielder Nico Raskin. The Belgian has been one of the standout performers for Rangers since arriving, but this summer, he's found himself in the crosshairs of transfer speculation. According to Martin, there haven't been any direct bids to the club, but there has definitely been contact with the player himself. And that's where the trouble starts. Raskin, just 24 years old, has looked a bit off the pace lately. Not in terms of effort or professionalism, Martin was clear about that. But the uncertainty, the noise around his future, it's taken a toll. The midfielder started the first 3 matches of the season, but was left out of the squad for this first leg against Pleasant and only came off the bench in the draw against Dundee. But here's where it gets interesting. Martin says he had a conversation with Raskin, explained the decision, and praised the midfielder's reaction. Top is how he described it. And it's clear the manager still rates him highly, not just for his footballing qualities, but for his character. The question now is whether Rangers can hold on to him. Martin didn't mince words when asked. It would take an extraordinary offer, he said. The club are not in a position where they have to sell. And given how important Raskin is to the system, letting him go would only happen if the bid makes sense for the player, the club, and if a proper replacement can be brought in. Otherwise, he stays. In a way, it's a microcosm of where Rangers find themselves right now, balancing ambition with realism, managing expectations while navigating the pressures of domestic and European football. Martin knows he doesn't have time on his side. The fans expect silverware, the board expects results, and with Celtic already setting the pace in the league, every decision from now until the window closes could shape the rest of the season. And that's the thing. On paper, Rangers are still in the Champions League race. They've got another big tie against Club Brugge coming up, and they'll be back at Ibrox for the first leg, which should give them a boost. But if this squad doesn't find consistency, if players don't step up when called upon, if the mistakes keep piling up, it won't matter. Because nights like the one in Pleasant aren't just about what happens on the scoreboard. They reveal the cracks. And unless those cracks are addressed urgently, the season could unravel before it ever truly gets going. And just when you think things couldn't get more tense around Ibrox, the reality of the squad's current state sets in. Rangers might have edged through in Europe, but it feels like they're dancing on a knife's edge. The fans can sense it. Russell Martin can definitely feel it. The highs and lows within 90 minutes are far too extreme. And if there's one thing that's become brutally clear, this team is still very much a work in progress. That would be fine if we were in pre-season, but the truth is we're already in the thick of the campaign. And this isn't just about fine-tuning anymore. It's about survival, results, reputation. Let's talk mentality. Because beyond the tactical tweaks, the inconsistent finishing, and the shoddy defending, what seems to be haunting Rangers the most is a psychological block. It's not that the players don't care, far from it. You can see the intent. You can see the effort. But what's missing is that ruthless edge, that refusal to let standards drop. When Martin speaks about the intensity falling after the equalizer in Pleasant, that's not just a throwaway line. That's the core issue, right? Now, this team doesn't know how to keep his foot on the throat. They get a goal back, and suddenly it's like the urgency disappears. That mindset will kill you in European football. Because these sides don't forgive you. You let them breathe, they grow in confidence. You switch off for 5 seconds, they punish you. And the frustrating thing is the talent is clearly there. You look at players like Danilo, Kieran Dowell, Nico Raskin, when they're switched on, when they're engaged, they can control the tempo, pick passes, and create openings. Jack Butland in goal has arguably been the standout performer so far this season. Calm under pressure, confident with his feet, vocal. He's been a rock, but he can't do it all himself. He's not going to save the day every time the defense decides to play Russian roulette in their own third. Russell Martin finds himself in a curious spot. He's trying to implement a playing style that's progressive, possession-based, high-risk, high-reward. It's modern, it's exciting when it works, but it's fragile when the players aren't fully committed to every phase. And you can hear it in his voice when he talks post-match. He doesn't want to rip up the playbook. He doesn't want to start from scratch. He believes in what he's building, but belief only gets you so far. At some point, you need results. Performances that match the vision. And right now, Rangers are caught in this awkward limbo, trying to evolve while being chased down in the league and stared down in Europe. That's where the transfer market becomes not just important, but absolutely pivotal. Rangers aren't in a position to carry passengers. Every spot in the squad has to count. And as much as the Jeff Day saga has dominated headlines this week, it's only a symptom of a bigger issue: squad depth. If the Brazilian does leave, and all signs suggest that's becoming more and more likely, Rangers will be forced into the market. There's simply no way around it. Reedham being the only senior left back isn't just a concern, it's a red flag. You can't go into the second half of August with only one natural option in that role, especially when that player might also be heading out the door. There have been whispers about potential replacements, some chatter about loans, a few names floating around from the Belgian and Dutch leagues, but nothing solid. And with the clock ticking, the risk of being caught short increases by the day. Even if Martin wanted to rely on Max Aarons to fill the gap temporarily, it's not ideal. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul. Aarons is already locked in a battle with James Tavernier on the right. You shift him to the left, and suddenly you're weakening 2 positions at once. That's not how title-winning teams operate. But perhaps the most delicate situation Martin has to manage right now is Nico Raskin. Because if there's one player who embodies both the promise and the volatility of this current Rangers side, it's him. Raskin at his best is dynamic, creative, and brave on the ball. He's got the kind of flair and vision that can unlock tight defenses. He's also got the engine to press, recover, and recycle possession. But the noise around him is growing. Interest from abroad has intensified, and even if no official offers have landed on the desk at Ibrox, the impact is already being felt. Martin admitted it himself. The speculation has gotten to the player, not in terms of effort or attitude, but it's in his head. And when that happens, it shows. The slight hesitation, the drop in sharpness. Maybe a pass takes a second longer. Maybe a run is delayed. In elite football, those moments matter. And Martin's decision to drop him from the starting 11 was telling. Not as punishment, but maybe as a protective measure, a reset, a reminder of the standards required. When Raskin came off the bench against Dundee and made an immediate impact, it proved 2 things. First, he's still fully engaged. Second, he has the ability to change a game. That cameo might have just saved his standing in the squad for now. But make no mistake, if a big offer does come in, one that turns heads in the boardroom and makes financial sense, he could be gone. And then the rebuild becomes even more complicated. The dilemma is clear. Sell him now, and you might have the funds to strengthen elsewhere. But you lose one of your most creative midfielders at a time when the team is already struggling to control games. Keep him, and you risk having a distracted player whose mind is elsewhere. The ideal scenario is he stays, refocuses, and delivers on his potential. But that's not something Martin can control. Not entirely, not with agents in his ear and clubs circling. And so we find Rangers walking a tightrope. A single injury, a poor result, or a transfer falling through could tilt the whole season. And with Club Brugge on the horizon, a team with quality, structure, and a European pedigree, the margin for error is non-existent. The first leg being at Ibrox is an advantage, yes, but only if the squad shows up, only if they cut out the slack. Passing, Only if they treat every moment like it matters, because the truth is progress isn't always linear. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it comes with nights like Pleasant, ugly, uncomfortable, but necessary. Maybe that defeat, despite the aggregate win, will serve as a wake-up call, a moment of reflection. Maybe it'll sharpen minds, rally the dressing room, and bring the focus back to what matters most. But that depends on how the team responds. The next few matches, both domestically and in Europe, will tell us everything. Whether this group of players is ready to fight for trophies, whether Russell Martin's ideas are truly taking hold, and whether the cracks that were exposed in that second leg can be patched up before it's too late. Because while the final whistle implosion brought relief, it also brought clarity. This is not a team that can afford to coast. This is not a squad that can carry passengers. And if the ambition is to return to the Champions League proper, to dethrone Celtic in the league, to build something sustainable and successful, then every minute from now until the window closes matters. Every decision, every substitution, every signing. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. Under the grey skies of Glasgow, a ripple of surprises swept across the city's footballing circles, as strong whispers emerged late last night, suggesting that Rangers captain James Tavernier has told close confidence of his intention to leave the club at the end of the current season. While no official statement has yet been issued by either the player or Rangers themselves, several sources inside Ibrox claim the long-serving right-back has already informed senior staff of his decision, sparking intense speculation over where his next chapter may lie. Tavernier, who has been a stalwart of the Light Blues for nearly a decade, has reportedly grown reflective about his career in recent months, particularly after another campaign filled with personal accolades, but mixed team fortunes. Those close to the situation say the 32-year-old is seeking a new challenge before the twilight of his playing days, with murmurs linking him to moves both abroad and within the UK. Some believe lucrative offers from MLS sides could tempt him, while others insist certain Premier League clubs have been quietly monitoring his situation. The news has ignited debate among supporters, with many struggling to imagine the Gers lining up without a talismanic skipper marshalling the flank. If the departure does come to pass, it would mark the end of an era defined not only by Tavernier's undeniable contributions on the pitch, but also by his leadership in the dressing room. Arriving at Rangers in 2015 during one of the most turbulent periods in the club's modern history, he quickly established himself as a consistent performer and was entrusted with the captain's armband in 2018. Over the years, his marauding runs, set-piece prowess, and remarkable goal tally for a defender have made him a standout figure in Scottish football. Yet, whispers now suggest that the strain of constant pressure, coupled with the club's occasional stumbles in domestic and European competitions, has weighed heavily on him. Sources indicate that recent conversations with family have centered on lifestyle changes, perhaps pointing towards a move to a less intense footballing environment. Some fans suspect that his close friendship with former teammates who have left Ibrox might also be influencing his thinking. Others note that Rangers' ongoing squad rebuild could signal a natural point for the captain to pass on the baton. Ensuring his departure feels like part of a broader evolution rather than a sudden rupture. In pubs, workplaces, and online forums, the rumor mill has gone into overdrive. Supporters, journalists, and pundits alike are dissecting every social media post and public appearance for clues about Tavernier's state of mind. A few eagle-eyed fans have pointed out that he's been noticeably quieter in recent post-match interviews, often steering conversation towards the collective rather than himself. There are also murmurs that a recent visit to England for personal reasons may have doubled as an opportunity to meet with representatives of interested clubs. While skeptics dismiss such claims as pure coincidence, others see them as part of a subtle farewell tour. In football, perception often becomes reality, and with Tavernier's contract still having time to run, any potential exit would require negotiations behind closed doors. Rangers, for their part, are said to be exploring possible replacements, though doing so discreetly to avoid unsettling the current squad. Amid all the conjecture, one thing remains certain. The thought of losing a player who has embodied the club's fighting spirit for so long is an unsettling prospect for fans who have come to see him as the face of modern Rangers. Those with connections inside the footballing business suggest that any announcement, if forthcoming, would be timed to avoid disrupting Rangers' current campaign objectives. This has led some to predict a quiet agreement between player and club, allowing him to continue leading on the pitch while both parties prepare for an amicable parting. Such a scenario would align with Tavernier's reputation as a consummate professional, unwilling to let personal matters derail the team's immediate ambitions. Still, transfer windows wait for no one, and suitors would need to position themselves early to secure his signature, especially given the level of experience and skill he offers. The financial aspect cannot be overlooked either. Rangers would likely command a respectable fee for their captain, reinvesting those funds into strengthening key areas of the squad. Interestingly, insiders note that this could coincide with a broader shift in the club's recruitment policy, aiming for younger, high-potential players to form the next core. If true, this transition might help soften the blow for supporters, though replacing Tavernier's influence off the pitch would be an entirely different challenge. His voice in the changing room has been as crucial as his presence on match days. As with all football rumors, the final outcome remains uncertain, and history is littered with tales of imminent departures that never materialized. Some seasoned observers caution against jumping to conclusions, recalling previous summers when Tavernier was heavily linked with moves south only to recommit his future to the Gers. However, there's a distinct tone to this current wave of speculation that feels different, as though the sands of time are finally shifting in a way both player and club cannot ignore. Whether he leaves for the bright lights of the Premier League, the sun-soaked pitches of MLS, or a surprise European adventure, his legacy at Ibrox seems assured. Fans will remember the goals, the tackles, the trophies, and above all, the steady leadership through triumphs and setbacks. For now, they can only watch and wait, aware that football's unpredictability often delivers twists right when the script seems settled. If this truly is the beginning of the end for James Tavernier Rangers, it will be a chapter closed with equal measures of pride and poignancy, marking a significant moment in the club's storied history. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.